We're well underway in our street stock build, and we've reached a point where we need to mount our 9-inch forward floater rear end into the chassis where we can figure out how all of these tubes back here need to be done. Well, I've got a problem. This floater rear end is a good unit to use, but it was mounted in a 7377 chassis. My information's telling me the bracketing for this is different. Well, this is a small metric frame, so we got to figure out how to get from what this is now to something that will work in this car. Let's get to it. I knew when I originally had this unit made that it was a different part number that Quick Performance built for me, a different ordering name and everything. They had a unit for a 7377 Chevelle versus a unit that would be for a metric frame. And so I had ordered the one for the 7377, and my research had said that like these bottom brackets were different and they were angled different. And then I didn't realize it, and somebody was telling me that the top brackets were slightly angled different too, as well. When I started on this metric build, Billy Sturgill had bought me these lower units that are from DCA that are clamp-on, so that I'd be able to get these lowers right, clamp these on, and I'm really baffled by something right now, y'all. And so we're gonna mock up some stuff and see what's going on here. But I just took this clamp-on left side unit and I laid it up here on the tube. Here's this one, all right, that's originally welded on. Now I'm just gonna lay this up on the tube, right like that. And those are parallel. They are identical. They're probably using one bracket for both. On the 7377 mid-size Chevelle frame, it's a longer trailing arm, and then the frame itself is a little bit wider, so like I'm assuming that it's just coming out to a point that's a little bit further out, so like further down the tube here a little bit. That's what I'm assuming, but we're gonna find out. So I already had some lockout sticks that I had made up, like where if you want to take a shock off the back of the car and lock one side out where you can isolate to use a load stick. I had a couple of these. I set them to 19 3/8 inches because here's what I'm thinking. We need to put this in and see like what the angle is, because like if it's only like 1 inch difference or something, well, I'm going to use a heim joint on this end, and I'm going to be using a spacer to like set that. So if I'm like within the zone, well, I'll be sending these back to DCA where Billy can get a refund on that sponsorship. I mean, if we don't need it, we don't need it. I'm not going to sit here and grind and cut all of that off if I don't have to, because we run a risk of bending, you know, warping the rear end when we do that. We have to re-straighten the rear end and stuff. Well, I'm not going to go through that if I don't have to. So let's put this thing in and see where we're at. All right, check this out. This original bolt that goes through on this metric frame, it's not a 1/2 inch. It's like a 12 millimeter. It's slightly under. And like I'm using like a grade 8 1/2 inch bolt, an extra long one with a sleeve on it where I can reach through and push it in. And so those have got to be drilled. Yo! Don't do that, Jay. Back you up. Them awkward angles is a good way to break a hand. All right. I just take a really long bolt and put a sleeve on it where I can take my fingers and push it through and get it started in the hole. All right, let's get you. Just about too tight right there. I need to clearance the back of that shock mount right there a little bit. All right, so I've got the rear end centered in the car, and now that I've got it centered in the car, I'm looking, and the angle is just not off. It is just not off. Come here, I'll show you what's going on. So you can see that 1/2 inch heim right there is sitting in the center of the bolt. And I centered the bolt because I'm going to put a bushing on an end right here that's like the rubber stock bushing. So it's going to be centered on the bolt on that end. So I centered it there. I did the same thing on this side right here. All right. Now back here in the back, I slid this heim over to this side because it is going to be a heim on this end on the unit we're going to run. We're going to have heims out here on the rear end down here. And I slid it over, and that rod is square up in that, where that bushing's going to be, is square up in there in that frame. Now if I had took and put it in the center, the angle's off up there, and you can see it. But it's not now. So there is like at least probably an inch difference between the 73-77 frame and the Chevelle as far as where this would be located if you was using stock trailing arms. But I'm good. So it's the same deal on this right side. I slid the shaft all the way over to the inside, and I've got, you know, that gap over there on that side. And when you look, it's sitting in here square. That's 90 degrees right there, or very close to it. So you can see it real good on the right side right here, how that I'm sitting over here on this side. I'm gonna make a bushing to go on this bolt so that it makes that angle stay aligned and stay correct right there. Should be, oh, let's see, that's 2.5 inches. It should be a 1 3/4 inch. That's a 3/4 inch thick bushing right there. So it's going to be an 1 3/4 inch bushing that I'm going to put on the bolt. And then that'll make these aligned. I have found the major difference in the rear end type build difference between the metric and the 73-77. Definitely in these upper mounts right here. So the lowers are going to work fine. No issues there. Everything's going to work out with me using heim joints and stuff the way I am. They're great. On these uppers, like this stock upper trailing arm here, that's 11 1/4 inches center to center. And that doesn't even start to work for what I'm sitting on right now. Like right now, this distance is like 9 inches instead of 11 1/4. And the reason for that is because these mounts on this are sitting further down the side and forward from where they are on a metric compared to it. So big difference there between the two. Kind of makes sense because you've got like a 2 and a little bit over 2 inch difference on the lower trailing arm, and like that has to be somewhere, so the mounts being different on top is kind of like how they're able to use the same length upper trailing arm for both of those cars. I kind of get that. Regardless, leaves the bottom alone. We're going to go on it. We're going to cut the tops off and then use the stock trailing arms where that we can bolt it all up and set the rear end. I'm going to set that thing to 5 degrees pinion angle. And then we're going to weld these up. Now, why 5 degrees? Well, I put in a phone call. I called Jamie Lewis because I was asking him. He's built a lot of these cars, and was asking him about, like, here's what I'm seeing. Is this what I'm seeing? And, you know, which direction? And, you know, he agreed. Yep. And he was telling me, like, yep, you can cut them off. You can weld them back on. Make sure that I get this right side as close as I can to the housing. So we're going to do that. Leave that left side up. We're going to do that, get it all lined up. He recommended 5 degrees on pinion angle because that works well to make sure that as this thing goes through its motion and stuff, I'm going to stay with that pinion angle negative all the time. I don't ever want to go past 0. And he said 5 degrees is a good number, Jason. Go with that. It will work well. And I'm not sure exactly how this rear end is going to articulate. So we're going to go with that. And we're going to have adjustments on all 4 bars. So ultimately on the track, we'll put a GoPro on it and stuff. If we see we need a little more, a little less, we're going to be able to adjust it out. So I'm not worried about it. So I'm not trapped. Like with the Crush, I was totally stock length on everything. We had to have everything be right. On this one, we've got some adjustability we're building in. So we're gonna set up initially at 5 degrees. And then if it needs to be 6 or if it needs to be 4, well, we'll just learn that together on the track. But I think 5 is going to work. With that said, time to get out a cutoff wheel and get these babies cut off here where we can put them back on in the right place. I think I just about got it ready. 64 and 8. I'm going to use my jig frame rails here to make sure I got this rear end sitting exactly centered. I don't want it offset at all. All right, on that pinion angle, I've got the engine sitting back 2.5 degrees because this car's static ride height is going to be nose down about 2.5 degrees on the frame rails and everything. So I'm not going to sit this 5 degrees to this jig, because if I did, I'm going to add 2.5 more degrees to that when I turn this whole car up, you know, like down on the concrete floor and I set it at ride height. I'll go from 5 degrees up to 7.5 if I have that 2.5 degrees in the frame rails of the car the way that it sits at static ride height. So I'm not going to do that. I've got 2.5 degrees of the engine back this way. That means I'm just going to turn this rear end forward 2.5 degrees, which will make 5 degrees. And when I've got that engine sitting level and the car sitting at its ride height stance, it'll measure 5 degrees back here. So just got to keep that in mind. So I'm going to make sure I set that. But all right, so there's 2.5 degrees where it's sitting right there. All right, I got my trailing arms here, and I've cleaned up and dressed up my mounts here up top. It's real simple what I'm going to do here. This is not rocket science. Put a bolt in. I'm not even putting nuts. I'm just leaving everything loose. You see that'll wiggle around. That's fine. I'm going to sit right there, try not to move the rear end. You stay. All right, I'm going to put this one in over here. Okay, there's that one. Okay, now they're on there. All right, and you see they're very different from each other. And Jamie and me talked about it. He said just set it all level to the frame. You know, we each got to do our own thing. And I put 1 inch difference in it. I set this as close. I pulled the top out of the jack and was able to get it right down to where it's really going to naturally sit at ride height. And I dropped it 1 inch on this side because that's what I'm going to expect. Sitting at static ride height, it's going to be something like that. One other thing, the way this originally was, this mount was on the right side because it's down the hill, and this one was on the left side. Yeah, we're switching those. We're switching them for a reason. So we're going to take, and so you see normally that's out the back. It's going to be out the front. So I'm going to sit that up there like it right there. I'm going to take this one, turn it around backwards. And the reason I'm turning these like this is because I want this to push out this side. Because like this bushing has to go from this side in, otherwise it would hit against the housing. So this one here, I'm going to sit right there like that. I'm going to sit it down. And I've trimmed on the bottoms of these. You see them hanging off, that's fine. I'm going to turn that, weld that in. It's going to be fine. Huge difference in the height of these control arms right here. Jamie suggested this, and this really makes sense, you know, like this is just common sense. Because this side of the rear end is going to be moving up and down. And not only that, but that's going to create drive. Having that angle arm, that upper trailing arm up like that, that's going to create drive. So it's not so much that I want this one to be as low as possible as it is having this one maxed out at height. And there is a rule on that. Truck Racing Street Stock does have a rule. 7 3/4 of an inch from the center line to the bolt is all you're allowed. And buddy, I am there. That is what that is. Whereas on this side, you know, I'm down at like 5 3/4 inches. So I got like 2 inches different. But there's not a rule about these having to be a certain way. There's just a rule about maximum height, because as you raise this up, you're going to create more and more drive. It's going to pull that rear end down when you step on the gas. So I am maxing that out to the rules on this side. I'm getting this one flat. I'm going to have this lower bar as flat as I can get it. I want this upper one to be as flat as I can get it. And then on this side, we want the angles in that create that drive. And we know we're centered this way. Check our angle here one more time. Kind of moved, just wiggling it around moved it, y'all. I'm telling you. Alright, so I've got my angle in it. I've got it sitting where I need it. Let's weld it up. Alright, so there they are. Try Try not to mess them up. Get both out. Alright. Weld these bad boys up. Looks good to me. Let's get it. Always away. Always. Oh. Round. Man, yeah. Trim that corner off right there. It kind of stuck out. Had too big a gap. Yeah. Man, yeah. I like that. I'll let that cool a while before I get the other side. Get this ugly instead. Alright. Let's see. I'm going straight in. You go across, you're going to go down right there. So I need to go about right. And I'm going to go about right. Good. Ow. Chill. Right. Yeah. Yep. Right there. I can tell y'all right now, we're definitely going to have to replace them bushings. Because, buddy, I done got them hot. I mean hot. We're going to leave them in there while we're setting everything up. I took these temporary trailing arms back off the car, and I was going to measure them to see where I was at. And I checked, and with everything adjusted out, I adjusted it to have a 1/4 inch of lead in the left rear. I'm thinking that's going to be the max that I would ever do. Because, you know, it's going to have dynamic lead, you know, go into it as the car rolls up on the left rear. I know it's going to gain, you know, some left rear lead there anyway. So I just set it at 1/4, just as kind of like a baseline starting point, and set the right rear, you know, at 19 3/8 inches. And the way this came out on these two arms, I'm sitting at about 19 1/8 on one, and 19 3/8 on the other. And I don't believe I'll ever be longer than that. I think I'm going to end up being shorter than that, but never longer than that. Right in there is probably how this is going to work. And I am making an estimation here, but what I'm going to do, I'm fixing to make this hybrid up. I'm going to use one of my stock lower trailing arms here to do it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to set, of course you see I've got a weld-in bung here with a new heim. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this kind of to where I think the max will be, kind of in the middle. And so I'm right in there. So I'm going to run the heim down to about where this weld flange is right here, or a little bit past that. see how much adjustment I've got left. Yeah, I can do 7/8 of an inch. So there's 7/8 of an inch. All right, is where that's adjusted. I'm gonna cut this in half right down the middle. It's 22 inches. I'm gonna cut it to 11 inches on each side. We're gonna do that next. Yep. All right, so I'm gonna clean this valley up where that I can weld in here. Do both of them the same way. I've got a 12-inch piece of 1-inch chrome moly here. This is thick wall that is just for this size bung to fit in. Fits tight, don't have to worry about it being off or anything like that. I'm gonna weld that up right there. All right, and then this is going to lay in, and I'm gonna, whoa, hang on y'all. I'm gonna set the total length of it to 19 3/8 inches. The only specific thing here, so this is really easy to do. I mean, this is not a problem to build these hybrids like this. It's the easiest thing ever. But the only thing that you pay attention to is like, I'm gonna weld it up with the tube against the bottom of the gullet right there where it comes out. But on the other end, I'm gonna make sure that I point the tube toward that center of that bolt. So like on the inside, it's not going to be like this, it's going to be like that. And the reason that I'm doing that is because when this is in the car, if I have this just flat up in this valley right here, well then this bushing is offset. That means if I put a angle finder on this piece of tube, it's not going to be right. It's going to be off because this tube is actually going to be running high because of where it's joining here. So by me taking and pointing that tube directly at the bolt, I know I can put an angle finder on that piece of tube right there. I'm going to get the exact angle of the tube going through. I won't put it here. I'll put it right here. It'll work great. Well, let's see if we can get this thing together without messing it up. It fits tight, snug, so I don't have to worry about really getting the angle messed up. I'm going to spot it. Right there. All right. Let's go. Alright y'all, I never claimed to be a welder, but yeah, that'll work fine. It would definitely look better if it was TIGged, yada 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 yada, but it's not coming out of there, okay? It ain't coming out. Yeah, it'd be fine. You know, the second time you do something, it's always better than the first. I wish I could have got this one to look like that one. But anyway, I just realized something. I need to cap off the other end of this tube because that's going to be in there and that would be open, and eventually this thing would fill up with mud and water and stuff, and then I would go to make an adjustment and that joker's going to be froze up in there where that the water and mud on the backside of it's worked in and seized it up on the threads. And it just dawned on me, it's like, oh, we gotta block that. So I got me a couple 7/16 nuts here. I think that's going to work pretty good. Just throw in the end, weld it up, dropping it. Don't drop it. Don't drop it. Sit it right there. I get a spot on it, I'll have it. Oh, I got you. I got you, big boy. The way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to initially just put a spot on this top crest right here. I'm just going to spot it. And then I will take and get the rest of the way. Bit right there. Hurry up and put a mark on that. Okay. I got me a mark. And I'm going to get me a spot on it. Right quick. No place. Yep, I'm hot. Okay. Right now, I'm just worried about getting it stuck. I'm not going to worry about getting it square yet, okay? Just stuck. Okay. Because I can bend it. That don't belong on that. Alright, let me see. Let's see where I'm at. Let's check. Middle of that. Money. Okay, that's money. Now, here's the hard part. I got to get that tube right perfect. And what I'm going to do, if I can get this just right, I think I can do it like this right here. I can squeeze it up on that tube and weld it up. And I think it'll work just freaking great. Okay, let's see. That definitely squeezed down. Got my... Oh. Got some tension on that bumper. Oh, I need a hammer. My little Harbor Freight vise didn't like that. Oh, it definitely don't. My little Harbor Freight vise said, ooh, I don't like that. You little bugbear. I mean, woo! Y'all see that? It's cheap vise though, I ain't gonna lie. Okay. I know I'm out of whack now, so let me work on it again. Oh, I need a brush or something. I'm gonna weld through that paint. There we go. Yeah. Yeah. That'd be better to do it like it right there. Don't add nothing to the structure, but probably gonna look better. Oh, that's a dead duck. Oh, duh, Jay. All right, so here is the finished product. This is our low budget hybrid lower trailing arm. Total cost on this, it's definitely less than $20. I think that's maybe a $10 heim right there, another $5 in the bung right here, plus a 12 inches of 1 inch, you know, molly tubing right here, and then sacrifice one trailing arm to make both of them. Definitely stout enough, no questions there. The main thing that I wanted to do was I wanted the rubber bushing on one end and the heim on the other. And I mean, these things, when you buy them completely prefab, this stuff is pricey. So I'm totally happy with this. I'm gonna paint the whole thing black. It'll look fine. And you know, like I said, this tube right here is on the correct angle because it's pointed right at the center of this bushing. So I'll be able to put an angle finder on it. I'm happy. I'm happy. This will work great. So, yeah. Do another one. All right. There it goes. There it goes. Nut on this. I don't know how long it'll be on here, so put a nut on it. I need to make some bushings too. I forgot the bushing. And by the way, if you're needing to make some sleeves or bushings for 1/2 inch bolts, this is an extra piece of the All-Star steering shaft. This is like real thick wall. And you always are cutting a piece off, like scrap. Save this, it's 1/2 inch bushing. Perfect. So, just worked out. One of them things, I was checking around all the small tubes I had, and that All-Star right there, like, that's it. So, yeah, 1 3/4 is what I'm needing. I don't know what it would be on other brackets, but I need 1 3/4 on each side on the bottom to keep that heim from shifting back and forth. I'm thinking that shifting would cause me a problem. Let's see. Yep. Got it. Yep. Perfect. Yep, 1/4 inch. What's my angle at? So I'm sitting at about 4 degrees pinion angle, which would be like 6.5 total between the engine and this, which is fine because I've got plenty of adjustment to be able to pull forward, because if I pull both these rods forward, that's going to take pinion angle out. So I know I'm in the zone. I'm at 6.5, I'm targeting 5, I think. So I can just pull both rods forward because I set it to where that I can shorten the rods up, a lot of adjustment. So I'm there. I am there. I don't think it's supposed to be any freer than that, y'all. I'm loving it. Now that I've done this one time, not scared to put brackets on a rear end anymore. You know, just like mocking it up and like getting it where I could measure everything as I went and having it fixed on a jig where I could measure exactly where it was sitting side to side. Like all of that was a part of it, but it's not that bad, y'all. It's not that bad. So, and this definitely works. Now, is it going to create drive on the track? Well, we'll find out this spring because we are coming with this build and we are going to be on the track. 60 days? I think I can do 60 days from right here where this video is at today. There's lots more to come on this build, so you definitely want to be subscribed, and I will see you next time.